Ontario Provincial Command regarding the Diamond Jubilee Oral History Project interview. This is Albert Darrington from Branch 100 Brighton interviewing Mr. Scotty Broughton. Can you give us a little background of your family, starting with your grandparents, if possible? If you have no memories of your grandparents, start wherever you wish to begin.
My grandfather, J.W. Broughton, came to Canada in 1905 and settled in Red Deer, Alberta, and started up the Red Deer Ironworks. My father was lost at sea in 1915 in the First War, and when my mother died at my age of 15, my sister, Margaret, and myself both came to my grandparents in Red Deer, Alberta. I joined the 78th Battery Militia and was a bombardier signaller. When grandfather died, I came east to Ontario, and in Brighton, Ontario, in 1927, I became the sergeant of the signal section of the Midland Regiment, and from then on, until war was over, I became a member of the Legion.
Can you give me any background at all of your education?
As was the custom in my day, we started school at 5 and went to school till we were 14, after which I went to work in a shipyard in Scotland.
Thank you very much, Scotty. Now, I know personally that you've been quite involved with the Anglican Church here in Brighton. Will you please give us a little description of what your positions have been?
Yes, I sang in the choir, was Sunday school superintendent, warden, treasurer, and finally lay reader, and I am now lay reader emeritus. I was also a delegate and a member of the Synod Executive of the Diocese of Toronto.
Have you any special social activities?
Yes, the Canadian Legion, in which I went as president of Branch 100, Zone F2 Commander, District F Commander, and a member of the Provincial Executive with the rank of third Vice President. I was also interested in Lodge, the Masons, and I am in my 49th year of the Boy Scouts.
That's quite an impressive background you've given us, Scotty. Were you ever interested in any type of sports?
In my youth in Scotland, I played soccer and cricket, but in this country, only the Legion activities of cribbage and euchre.
How about your marriage, Scotty? Can you give us some circumstances in which you met your spouse, and how long you were engaged, your wedding day, etc.?
Yes, I met my bride, Ruth Wheeler, at Cooey Metal Products, where she and I both worked after the war. We were married in 49 years ago, and we had our honeymoon in Barrie, Ontario. We had purchased our house before we were married, and it was next door to the Legion Hall. I bought the corner, and the Legion built on that land.
How many sons or daughters do you have, Scotty?
I have one son, Ronald, who is working with the Department of Veterans Affairs in Toronto, and one daughter, Patricia, who is an apartment manager in Victoria, British Columbia. My son has 2 children, and a third one on the way.
What was your reaction when war was declared? What were you doing and so on, Scotty, just prior to that?
I was working at Cooey Metal Products in Brighton, a firm that came to Brighton. That's how I came to Brighton with them. I was a signal sergeant of the militia of the Midland Regiment, and 1 week before war was declared, we received orders to take over Lindsay Arsenal for security. I picked up 12 boys from Brighton, 12 from Colborne, and went to Lindsay and was there until the regiment mobilized in July 40.
Give us a little bit of your reaction regarding the policy of conscription, and what motivated you really to enlist?
Well, I enlisted because I was a member of the militia. I'd been 12 years in the militia at that time, and I have the efficiency medal. As far as conscription was concerned, I considered it every man's duty to Canada to join, and I was against conscription. I was in favor of conscription.
Was there any other particular training that you had in your early years in the forces?
Well, I was a bombardier in the 78th Battery in Red Deer, Alberta, so I knew a bit about Canadian field artillery. I took a Royal School of Signals in 1929 at Camp Borden, passed, and I was Signal Sergeant of the Midland Regiment prior to the war, and for the first few months after the war, until I became the company quartermaster of Red Quarter Company.
So you've had quite a history of experience, and you've passed on a lot of your experience to other members of this branch. Which theater of war did you serve in? Tell me your part in the major operations of the war.
Well, I was the first one in the Midland Regiment and the last one out when they were disbanded in England. I was then posted to the 3rd Battalion, the SDs and Gs at Verhoeven, Holland, with them a month, and then I was posted to the 3rd Battalion for the Cameron Highlanders of Ottawa as Regimental Quartermaster Sergeant for them. I spent 1 year in the occupation of Germany.
Explain some of your off-duty activities and how you enjoyed the victory celebrations.
I spent most of my leaves on visiting different parts of the British Isles. As for the night war was finished, I was in charge of a party for the men at Darrington, England. And along with Captain MacDougall of the British Army, we kept the boys in camp that night, brought in British girls, and had a dance and a good time.
After demobilization, is there any single image the war left on your mind?
No, except that Canada, instead of being an agricultural country, had become an industrial country. We made planes and guns in this country and never did anything like that before.
Your transition from the military service back into civilian life, can you describe anything about that to us?
Well, no. I was 31 when the war started and 38 when it finished. I went back to Cooey Metal Products in Brighton, where I had been before the war.
You have outlined some of your outside interests, Scotty. Are there any more that you would like to pass on to us?
Well, when I was in Lindsay, Major Gamey asked me what I would do after the war, and he suggested that I get active in the Legion, and I became active in it. I bought a corner lot where the Legion could build, ran for president 2 years, zone commander F2 4 years, district commander of F 4 years, 2 years provincial president, vice president, 3rd provincial vice president. I have held practically every job in my branch, secretary treasurer, service bureau, you name it, I've done it.
Really, what is there I can ask you, Scotty, other than all the experience you've had with this branch and as being associated with the zone and district and so on? How do you feel about comradeship and how should it affect us?
I think comradeship is very essential. I remember a speech made in the Sergeant's Mess at Vernon one night by General Perks, the VC. He said, "There is no comradeship under heaven like the comradeship of arms." I believe him. We have a relationship built up in Canada's time of sorrow that exists in the Legion and should go forth.
Could you tell me something about the establishment of your branch, when it was set up, who were the chartered members? Were you involved in any way in its early history? Pretend for a moment you've decided to visit your branch. Tell me where it is and give me a tour of the facilities.
The Legion in this part of the country, the first was a county Legion formed by Colonel Floyd of Coburg in 1927. Later on, we became a branch affiliated with Colburn Brighton Branch. And in 1931, Branch 100 was chartered. The first president was Fred Douglas. There is only one remaining member left today, and that is Dr. Frank Dunnett. Clive Thompson, one of our old members, came in later. Branch 100 is on Park Street, number 9. It has a corner section which once belonged to me. The branch was built by volunteer labor. It cost us $7,500 to build the first branch because we bought everything at wholesale price, begged or stole it. Later, 10 years ago, we built an addition to the branch, and that addition was opened by the Minister of Veterans Affairs, Dr. Dan MacDonald. Jerry Simpson was president at that time. Branch 100 has supplied 2 district commanders and 1 zone commander, and one district secretary. The district secretary was J. Harkler Morrow, a major of artillery in World War I. Jerry Simpson was a member of the Algonquin Regiment, and I was a member of the Midlands, SDs and Gs and Camerons. Our branch had a mortgage of $500,000, but it is paid off, and we owe about $70,000 to the members, which can reasonably be taken care of. We have a good branch right in the heart of town. Our Ladies Auxiliary has done very good with us.
Can you give us a description of the social activities that have been sponsored over the years in your branch? Do you regularly attend these events? What kind of facilities at your branch for the members?
Branch 100 Brighton has been a branch heavily involved in civic affairs. The first arena, of which I was the secretary to raise the money, was one of the main things. And then when they put in artificial ice, we put in money to provide the pavement to cover that ice. We also built the public library in Brighton, which cost us $15,000. We also started a pipe band, which won prizes and trophies in many places and traveled all across Canada. I think Brighton Branch has been a good servant of the municipality in which it lives. The branch has a large banquet hall in which many weddings and other ceremonies are held. It has a good room for the men who want to come down in the afternoon and have social intercourse. It is a good branch, well built, and it's comparatively new.
Why do you think the Legion moved into these kind of activities? I know one I think you just skipped on a little bit, Scotty, maybe just skipped your mind, but what about the Senior Citizens Club?
Yes, we have two senior citizens groups in Brighton, one which meets Wednesday afternoon, one which meets Thursday. Both of them have in excess of 100 members. We charge them no rent, but each year they generally give us a donation of a couple of $100. We also have meetings in our boardroom of the people who organize youth sports. And I may say that when the old hall was built, for 10 years, the Boy Scouts met in there, and we never had any damage from them. We have a lot of faith in youth, and the Legion believes in youth, because the future of Canada depends on a well-developed, strong, virile youth.
Now, Scotty, we're getting back to our Legion and the rituals that we go through every meeting. What goes on through your mind when we recite the Act of Remembrance? Do you take pride in the Legion regalia? Why do you attend the cenotaph services and take part in the ceremonies, march, etc.? Give us your ideas, Scotty.
When we go through the ceremony of remembrance, I remember Jack Whittington of North Monaghan, my best friend in the army, who lost his life at Sicily. I also remember my father, who was lost at sea, and my many uncles from the Shetland Islands who served during the war. I go to the 11th of November service every year, but I think the one great thing we should remember is the Battle of Vimy Ridge on the 9th of April 1917, when the Canadian government and the Canadian as a nation was born. That to me is the most important thing that has ever happened to the Canadian Army. And I might say that we live in an area where there is a large Air Force station. 10 miles from us is Trenton. So the majority of our members are members of the Royal Air Force.
Do you think, Scotty, that the younger generation, the school kids and that, really understand Remembrance Day? What do you think the people today understand about the sacrifices that were made during the war?
Well, this branch has always sent speakers with poppies to the public schools. We think we get our message across in the public school. The high schools run their own program. But I think that the young men who are in scouting or in the cadets, Army, Navy, or Air Force, they realize part of it. The thing is, we are a long way from the war, and very few of the teachers know anything about it. Now, previously I was asked about the ritual, and I forgot to mention that. I think the Legion opening and closing ceremonies are very good, but I think the funeral service has a lot to be desired. It's very anemic.
Can you describe any of the Legion conventions you have attended as a delegate in some other capacity?
I have attended Legion conventions in Vancouver, in Newfoundland, in Toronto, in St. Catharines, in another town down east. But the one I remember the most was St. Catharines, when the Right Reverend Dean Anderson was installed as the Dominion President. He said, "We have looked after the veterans. We have done our job for them. Now we must turn around and do something for the place in which we live." And from that day forward, the Legion took a great part in civic affairs. Whatever was the greatest need of the community became the greatest need of the Legion. And I think that is when we really got going, when the Legion became a part of the municipality in which they lived.
Thanks, Scotty. Now then, do you recall anything that goes on behind the scenes at these sessions, at the provincial conventions and so on? Were there any resolutions you recall that prompted vigorous debate?
Oh yes, at Winnipeg. I think it was Winnipeg, when Lester Pearson's motion came forward about the new flag. We took a great part in that. The Canadian Legion was in favor of using the flag that we had used in wartime, the red ensign. It was officially the flag declared so by Mackenzie King during wartime. It was used on altars at the communion services of the troops, and we took a great part in that. But when it was over, we laid away the old flag with honors, and we recognized that the government of Canada is the law, and therefore we recognize the Canadian red flag today.
Can you describe any way in which the Legion has adjusted to the times? Has it made these adjustments successfully? Speculate on what the future holds for the Legion, and what is your opinion will be the greatest challenge?
The greatest challenge to the Legion is going to be the unity of Canada. We have made many strides. We have taken in our sons and daughters and trained them. Some are good and some are not so good. But I think that the time will come when we will cease to be the Legion and we will be a patriotic organization standing for, working for the united Canada from coast to coast, French and English.
Well, Scotty, we've had quite a nice chat here this afternoon. In conclusion, is there anything that you would like to add? Any answers you would like to give to anything that you've already spoken about? Is there any topic that hasn't been discussed or anything you would like to add to those that have been? What has it meant to you to be a Legionnaire?
Well, thank you very much, Albert. This has been a pleasant hour. I have enjoyed the Legion. I've worked for the Legion. I've given my life, my home, and my children were brought in the Legion. My boy Ronald used to call the red ensign the Canadian flag. We lived next door. I live today in a house that was given by the Canteen Fund of Ontario. When the Legion decided to expand, my house was in the road, so I traded with them for this little cottage. It was a holiday cottage valued at $3,600. We bought a lot, and the Legion boys put it together. I must say a good word for the Canteen Fund of Canada. That is the fund accrued from the canteens of World War I. All the provinces got a share of that on a basis of their veterans. Ontario was the only province that did not charge administration to the committee. They provided the office, they provided the secretary, and they provided assistants. And there is still money in the Canteen Fund in Ontario, and it is the easiest fund to get out. One veteran in this community, his wife died, and he came to me and he said, "Scotty, I have to sell my house to pay my bills." I said, "No, you don't. Let's wait a few days and see what happens." I got in touch with the Canteen Fund, and they said, "Look, we'll appoint you our representative for one day." and if you can get all these bills cut in half, we will pay them. So I made a trip to the undertaker, to Belleville Hospital, and to several other people, and within one week, that veteran's bills were cleared, and he lived in his own little house until he died, a veteran of South Africa, and that, I think, is what the Legion really counts for. We also today are able to provide glasses and false teeth and all sorts of things for the veterans. The only problem is many of the veterans don't know where to go. For that, we have a Service Bureau office in every branch, and they can go there and they will get the answers. The Legion should be an oasis in every municipality for the veteran who needs help, who needs advice, and we in Brighton do just that. Thank you, Albert.
There's just one thing, Scotty, that you didn't mention, but you've told me about it many and many a time. When you lived in the little house beside the original Legion, I believe you were the stoker for the furnace and used to spend your evenings over here stacking up the furnace boxes. You remember all that, Scotty?
Yes, I remember we got a furnace from underneath the hydro office that they weren't using, the coal furnace. And it was my job, and I was a district commander at the time, to stoke the furnace at 6 o'clock in the morning, fix it at noon, fix it at night, and just before I went to bed, fix it again. And while we were building the Legion Hall, the veterans met in my front room, which was a double room. And I had a 4-holer attached to the Legion, and that's what they used for a toilet.
Scotty, I appreciate your time this afternoon, and I've enjoyed this chat. And I hope that sometime in the future we can sit down and have another discussion where we won't have to tape it. Thank you very much, Scotty.